the idea is the protagonist, right? That what you're really excited about, you're going to meet interesting people along the way, and you're going to follow their arcs, and that'll be great, and that'll be part of the appeal of it. But ultimately, you're watching this idea as it kind of develops and spreads around the world, or someone improves it, and it ends up being useful in all these surprising, interesting ways. And the plot twists are watching that idea in motion, and that's challenging because people's natural orientation is towards other human beings and their personal struggles and things like that. But if you do it right, I think it can be really powerful. The tricky part about it is, because of the network theory of innovation that we talked about before, a lot of times the greatest, most powerful ideas, like the internet, for instance, they don't have a single inventor, and it's very hard, or in my last book, Extra Life, which is about longevity and the extension of human lifespan, you think about something like this, the eradication of smallpox, one of our greatest achievements. Well, who did that? Well, it was thousands of people, right? And so you want to celebrate those achievements. You want to celebrate when people do these amazing things, and thus tell stories about it. But it's tricky to tell a story where there are 1,000 heroes. It's just not an easy thing to do from a narrative form. So a lot of what I do in thinking about these things, just as a craftsman at this stuff, is trying to figure out a way to make the story resonate or rhyme in some way, even though you don't have a clear protagonist. I think in the early books, like Emergence, for instance, I think the ideas were almost too dominant. And what I kind of learned over time is that if you can figure out a way to anchor the ideas in some kind of recognizable narrative form, you can really pull people into what is essentially an intellectual journey. But you can make them feel like they're reading something or engaging in something that is closer to a traditional, thrilling narrative.
The Ghost Map, right?
Ghost Map that book is the story of Jon Snow, not the Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, but the wonderful 19th century doctor and epidemiologist who basically solved the mystery of what was causing cholera, which was one of the great killers of the 19th century. And he did this amazing kind of shoe leather detective work in the middle of a terrible outbreak in Soho in London in 1854, and he did it through kind of information design, building this map of the outbreak that convinced people that the cholera was coming from contaminated water and not from the air, which is really one of the most important ideas in public health in the 19th century. And what drew me into that story was it connected to a lot of things that I was already interested in, right? The history of cities, particularly the history of London, which I had specialized on in my graduate school years.